How are you?
I'm doing well. 15 days away. It's Sinclair Cannon Day for you, Will Bowling.
Hey.
Sinclair Cannon Day.
I like it.
He's going to love that. I got to let him know,
There's a lot of good 15s. We just got to make sure Will goes down the right path on 15s here.
See,
so it's Sinclair Cannon Day.
I remembered the mistake I made last year, so I was going to let you start with the 15 this morning, so I did not repeat it.
There you go. There you go. Hope you guys are well.
Yes.
We're great. I get a little bit more excited, Brent, because I can see Mercedes-Benz Stadium from where we are here downtown to week one. For you, if you are picking one question about this football team that has nothing to do with quarterback, putting that to the side, what's the biggest question mark you have about this team that you feel like they got to answer in the next 15 days?
Well, that's a great question because I think so much of it hinges around the quarterbacks, right? I mean, you say wide receivers, but you're really saying passing game. You want to see what the passing game looks like. I think defensively, it's can they get to the quarterback with regularity off the edge? Joshua Josephs and Caleb Herring, stepping in James Pierce's shoes. Offensively, if you're looking for a singular stat, it's how well did they finish in the red zone. But I think offensively, it's all going to focus around the passing game and so the wide receivers, and ultimately that will include the quarterback. I just have a belief that this team's going to run the football. Given Josh Heupel's history, and I like where this offensive line is at right now, I feel like they're going to be able to run the football. I think the question is going to be what can they do, and maybe what wrinkles do they have, Will, in the passing game? What have they put together this offseason for a few different wrinkles to the passing game?
Brent, how much closer are we, you think, from getting a determination, a final decision on who that starting quarterback is? And do you expect Josh Heupel to wait until game week to make that public? How close do you think internally they are to Joey Aguilar officially being the guy?
Well, I think Josh Heupel's not going to announce anything today. He will visit with the media after the scrimmage. He's obviously, at that point, will not have seen the scrimmage tape. He's not going to make that announcement today. He meets with the media next Tuesday of next week. He could do it then, or it would be game week. So maybe he does it on Tuesday if it's clear cut and running with it. I think there'll be plenty of speculation over the weekend from a bunch of people about Joey Aguilar being the guy, unless something crazy happens in the scrimmage this morning. I mean, there's still a competition going into this morning in the scrimmage that'll start in about 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, Joey's got to go play and do things the right way today. This is the last, I'm not saying the competition's over, but this is the last, put the ball down. Coaches are all on the sideline. We're going to play in the stadium in a bunch of different scenarios. And, we're going to turn the defense loose. How do you react? How do you play? This is really the last one of those because they move into mock game week starting next week. And then, that'll be scout team and more focus on an opponent and kind of what game weeks look like and get you ready for that. So I think it happens either Tuesday next week or Josh Heupel is going to wait and announce it on the Monday of game week. One of those 2 days would be the official date. I think there'll be plenty of stuff written about it between now and then, though.
We're talking about Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3 this morning. Hubbs, you got a shout out from my guy Ron Slay said we pulled you out the garden this morning, okay? So he's happy to hear you.
Hey, listen, Ron's got to understand. I mean, open gym's over, so that means the garden's over here. We're focused in on getting ready. We're not in the garden this morning, all right? But playtime's over. Now we're in team function. We're going through our regular schedule, so we're focused on getting ready to play some football here. So open gym at the Y or the Boys Club or wherever Ron Slay drove to Nashville every weekend to play when he wasn't supposed to back when he was a Vol. Those days are over. We're out of the garden. Well, yeah. But I appreciate Ron listening this morning.
I knew you was going to give it to him, Hubbs. That's what I'm talking about, man. Speaking of playtime being over, Hubbs, he's laughing his butt off right now, too, just so you know. Speaking of playtime being over, man, Mike Matthews, let's start with him, or just anybody else that you have in mind. Offensively, Hubbs, with how this offense is set up, is there a star on this offense going into 2025? Is one of these quarterbacks going to have a guy that they can go to and you can be sure of him the way you see this team set up right now?
I don't think we know the answer to that question. I mean, okay. I think that happens when the lights come on. which is not the ideal situation. You would love to have a guy come back that you feel really good about. I think they're confident in Mike Matthews, and I think Mike Matthews has certainly shown that he has that ability. But, I mean, he played so sparingly last year.
Mm-hmm.
How many Fridays did we talk about, is this Mike Matthews week? Right. Are we going to see more Mike Matthews? So, I mean, the opportunity's there for him, but I do think there's a prove-it factor for him. As we know, some guys are better practice players than they are game day players, and some guys are better on game day than they are in practice. I think Mike has had a good camp overcoming the knee injury and things he's has dealt with. But I think to be a star and be the go-to guy, you got to go prove it against some competition in week one. I mean, Brazel's the most experienced guy, but, you didn't leave the end of the year with confidence that he was your go-to playmaker. He made a couple of key plays, obviously, the Alabama game being the biggest, but he also had some moments where he wasn't the go-to guy, and he's missed all of fall camp. I mean, we're talking about probably sometime next week, they will have all their scholarship receivers on the field for the first time this preseason camp. So there's just a lot of prove it to you at that position, and I think for somebody to emerge as a go-to guy, it's going to happen, week one, week two, when we see it in game action.
Well, it seems defensively, Hubs, like they have those guys primed and ready to go, man. Coach Martinez mentioned last week that Ricky Gibson had a way better season than he got credit for. Jamar McCoy got that. But if this front end, the defensive line, and the back end secondary work hand-to-hand, Hubs, this can be a top 15 unit defensively. Is that how you see them on the defensive side of the ball to support the questions at quarterback and the playmakers offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this defense is not going to take a giant step back, even though they lost Omar Norman-Lott, a second-round draft pick, and obviously James Pierce in the first round. I think that when you look at them across the defensive front, they've done a really good job at developing guys and working guys in as they were young players in game action and meaningful game action. I mean, you feel like Davin Hobbs can play. It's his time. He's played for the last 2 years meaningful snaps. Caleb Herring's played some meaningful snaps. He's going to take a bigger role now. Tyree West has played meaningful snaps. Now he's going to be joined by some guys. Don Bailey, obviously. There's enough veterans and there's enough talented younger players who have played some. That's a nice mix. I think Coach Garner's commitment to playing 10 to 12 guys a year really pays off. And it means you're not rebuilding that front when you have graduation losses. You're kind of, reloading to a degree. I think in the back end, the secondary is where are they at the safety spot opposite turn time, and what happens at the nickel spot? Is this going to be, because Jamal McCoy's not going to play week one. It feels like this is going to be Colton Hood and Ricky Gibson at the corners, and then Jalen McMurray at star. So how does he play there? I do like where Ricky Gibson's at plus 20 pounds, and I think he was really consistent down the stretch last year and played good football. So there is a ton of confidence there, and I think Ricky Gibson has a ton of confidence in himself right now, and Colton Hood doesn't lack for confidence, even though he's in a new defense. So I think they've got a lot of parts to work with and a lot of things that you feel comfortable with. And the other thing, too, whether we like it or not, that is a defense that has gotten better year over year over year. So you feel like they're trending in the right way. Offensively, everybody's like, can they get back to where they were? Right. It's a different mental approach by fans. Fans are like, is it going to be more like 22? We got to fix offensively, even though they scored points last year. But that you feel like offensively they've not been what they were the last couple of years, whereas defensively they've been significantly better the last 2 years than they were in the 22 season when the offense was off the charts.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3, your guests this morning on Ramon and Will. Brent, I wanted to ask you about Brilen Staley at wide receiver. How much optimism is there about him being a potential breakout star? I know another one that's got to get healthy, but you talk about what Josh Heupel has done with some fast slot guys and just guys that can take the top off the defense. Is there a pathway in a world we could live in where Brilen Staley is maybe that breakout star on this Tennessee offense?
Well, I want to choke his hamstring because I've had him as a guy all summer long that I was buying stock in, and then he doesn't go through enough practice in fall camp. I don't think there's any question that at the slot position he can be a really good player in this offense. I think Tennessee has a belief that he can be really productive as a slot in this offense. He's got to get to the practice field, and he's got to stay there, and he's got to stay healthy. And I think that's the frustration. You know, he didn't go at the end of spring because he was dealing with this issue. The other hamstring bothered him last fall camp, and now he's got a hamstring this fall camp. He just got to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I do think he is the guy in the slot that you look at and go, oh, yeah, he can do a ton of things. I mean, he can, no offense to him, but I think he can make you forget about Squirrel White pretty quickly, and put you back a little bit in that Valus Jones type deal in the slot. But he's got to practice, and he's got to stay healthy. And I think right now that's the biggest question mark you have with him is can he get healthy? He should practice next week, and can he stay healthy? Or is he one of those that it's going to be problematic? And we've seen some of that. I've seen some of that throughout my 30 years where guys are like, they're really talented, but, man, they just can't stay healthy enough to play. And he's got to go prove he can play week in and week out if he's going to have a chance to be a breakout star.
Brent, when you look at the quarterback battle, I know it's unfair to suggest that George McIntyre is going to start right away, obviously. But as someone who has, according to reports and according to conversations we've had, looked solid, has been maybe the most accurate quarterback at the first scrimmage of those top three, do you feel like there's surprise in a good way about how quickly George McIntyre has taken to this offense and performed well so far in practices?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, you would look at him and everybody would say ahead of schedule. The thing George does two things really well. One, his blood pressure is about 87 over 64, 24 hours a day. Throw a touchdown, never changes. Okay, throws an interception, never changes. Has a busted play, we're fine. Let's go play the next one. Breaks off, checks into something that yields a 50-yard run. Yeah, okay, that's what we're supposed to do. Even keel. And I think that's vital at that position. I think that's unusual for a young player to be that even keel. I think at that point, emotion sometimes, for younger quarterbacks, come into play. It doesn't seem to with George. I think the other thing George does really well is he's a quick processor. He sees it, he feels it, he throws it, he makes quick decisions, and he gets going. And I think those two things are why he's remained in this race and has had the camp that he's had. I think that George has sped up his process of being able to manage this offense the way that you want to. And I think he'll continue to get better and better. The question is going to be, for me, I don't think George is going to start the first game. I think it's an upset if George is starting early in the year. I think we all would agree that that's likely the case. I don't think you're going to put him out there against Syracuse to start the season. Where are they in the backup role? How do they divvy up the reps starting next week between, who's the number 2 and then who's the number 3? How does that happen? And how much does George continue to improve throughout the fall? I think there's a lot of people really happy George McIntyre is wearing orange and where he's at in his progression as a quarterback right now.
Man, Huz, we got so many nuggets to get to, man. I'm going to get right to it then with this next one. Adidas, man. Deal's done. July 21st, 2026.
July 1st, 2026.
July 1st, 2026, Hubs. How did it come about? What's the perks of it? And, of course, a lot of people just upset about Nike. What would you tell those folks right now?
Well, and Nike didn't want you to the level of that Adidas did. So, do you dance with the date that you brung, or you going to go with somebody else, or what are you going to do? And I think Adidas made it very clear how much they valued Tennessee, and it showed in the way they went about putting a deal together, and kind of the courtship, and then 2, what the actual deal looked like. I think we're living in a day and age of dollars and cents, and every dollar counts. I think Adidas's commitment to the NIL process and the student athlete is at a different place than where Nike's is. And I think as a result of that, once Adidas put their deal out in place, Nike wasn't going to counter. They weren't going to get to that level of where Adidas was with Tennessee. And quite honestly, it sounds like it became a complete no-brainer. Like you're not going to leave that much money laying on the table. If it were even or close to even, maybe. I mean, you go back and look when Tennessee went to Nike, they took less money from Nike when they left Adidas because coaches and everybody wanted Tennessee to be a Nike school because they felt like it was important in recruiting. I think in this day and age, student athletes are not worried about what gear they wear as much as they are. If you can say, hey, you're going to be an ambassador for Adidas and we're going to give you X number of dollars every year at all sports and all, student athletes in all sports. And then on top of that, there'll be other NIL deals and there'll be other NIL athletes that are Adidas athletes. So I think it was a dollars and cents thing. And I think Adidas made it very clear Tennessee was going to be a flagship school for them. They wanted to really plant their flag in the college football space, and they had some schools, but they wanted another big school, and Tennessee was it. And I think the belief is if Tennessee had said no and turned down the money, then you would see Adidas planting their flag with another school, maybe another SEC school that's in the window here in a little bit to look at a new apparel deal. There's a lot of people in college athletics trying to figure out what this deal exactly looks like, and that's why Tennessee and Adidas have not released details on exactly how the finances of it all works. But it involves the student athlete greatly.
Is it the Danny White way when it comes down to a deal being made like this too, being aggressive to keeping Tennessee all sports on the forefront of this thing too? Because there's, soccer benefiting from this, golf benefits from this, track benefits from this. This is a global brand. I feel like people don't understand the weight of how big this deal is. But is it Danny that facilitates this type of movement also?
Well, I spoke with Chris McGuire, who was vice president of operations for Adidas North America on, Tuesday before the announcement came out. One of the things that appealed to Adidas was how aggressive Tennessee had been and how on the forefront Tennessee had been in the NIL space once it arrived. That tells me Adidas wants to be aggressive. They want to be aggressive in all sports. And I think Danny White is looking, he wants to make sure Tennessee is a have and not a have-not. He's always looking for competitive advantages and deals if he can find them. As a competitor, Danny White knows I can't go win games. Where I have to be, and I have to win as a competitor, is I have to put my programs and my sports in the best shape to win that they can. Whether that's doing things in baseball to get those guys more money through the years to kind of level the playing field with Vanderbilt and compete where they needed to in the SEC, whether that's this deal, whatever else it might be, that he feels like, hey, if we do this, we can create a competitive advantage for ourselves. And Tennessee and Danny White's trying to create a competitive advantage with Adidas.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's and On 3, our guest Friday mornings here on the show. Brent, you are in the Mid-State next week, if I'm not mistaken. August 19th, the Big Orange kickoff at the Franklin Theater. It feels like that has become, Brent, the official start of football season.
Yeah, those guys wanted us to come back out and wanted me to bring the VolQuest's guys with us. So Grant R. and Blount County is going to come with us, and he'll probably drive us all out there, and we'll talk Andy Griffith's show for 2.5 hours. Ramon, if you want to come over and ride with us, we can give you an education on some things throughout that trip. And then we'll be at the Franklin Theater, and looking forward to visiting with all the great ball fans there at that event. I was there last year with Mike. It's a lot of fun. So we'll be over and back for that one because we got to get back and get some practice work in and do some things on Wednesday morning. But we'll be there Tuesday evening, and we'll be working in the car on the way out there. That's Savion Hyder Day on Tuesday.
So I was going to ask you, what is that looking like? Nothing still, huh?
No, man, this is as old school school gets, man. I mean, he is – I think the last interview Savion Hyder did might have been last October with Matt Ray. I think that's the last time he may have been publicly quoted. He had made a decision, his family made a decision. They were not going to allow their recruitment to be tracked through media interviews and all those kinds of things. They know everybody was going to speculate, but they didn't want anybody to speculate based on intel they were getting from the family or his circle of people. They have been as silent as anybody has been. It's a little bit different than the Rouse kid, who was very silent. He did interviews and just kind of played Switzerland all the way through his interviews. He liked everywhere he'd been. Savion Hyder just doesn't talk to anybody. He goes out the back door when he leaves his official visit or unofficial visit. He just did not want to do any interviews. So I think anybody saying right now they know where he's going is a guess on their part, because I think it's pretty clear there's two final schools, but exactly which one it's going to be, I don't think we're going to know probably before the announcement. I'm not sure he's going to let schools know until right before he announces publicly where he's going.
Wow.
Good
Old
stuff.
School.
Yeah, absolutely right.
We don't get many of those anymore, but that was an old school deal.
Well, I may or may not be emceeing this event next Tuesday as well, Brent. So hopefully we've got some good news to talk about. I am.
Hey, Ramon, this could be dangerous.
It could be
dangerous.
I just thought about it too. We play on Monday night in middle school football. We usually play on Tuesday, but because some of the counties get new stadiums,
Come on down.
I may have to go ahead and come
fun.
on down. Yeah.
Oh, we'll just put you up on stage. I'll sit in the corner and not do anything. I like this trip. I'm just kidding. I'm looking forward to talking Tennessee with everybody. Everybody's starting to get excited, as they should, and we'll be. We'll be about 10 days away when that happens next week. So we're looking forward to it.
Yes. Great stuff. VolQuest's Brent Hubbs joining us this morning on the show. Brent, pleasure as always, and we will see you next week.
Yes, indeed.
That sounds great, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Peace out.
All right. There he is. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest at On 3 this morning. Ramon Foster, that's good news that you don't have middle school football on Tuesday.
I know. We play on Monday night, man. You know, trying to get the kids ready for the NFL. I kid.
That's absolutely right. No, it's Grant R. in Blount County may or may not have reached out wanting our show to be involved. And so it sounds like maybe the show might be able to be involved.
That's what I'm talking about. I just thought about that, too. I got to fix my entire schedule next week. I'm so throwed off, man.
I'm with you. Yeah. It's that time of year, isn't it?
It is. We've cranked up officially, Will.
No doubt about it.